Okay, good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. It is now 6:35. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First up on the agenda tonight is to accept the minutes of the February 16th, 2016 meeting.
Make a motion to accept. Second.
I have a motion to accept in a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, listed on the agenda next is Region 2, Sarah. She will not be coming this evening, so we are all set with that. We will be going forward with our scheduled drill on April 23rd at Shepherd Hill. I am waiting to hear back for the use of the school. I did submit it to the superintendent's office, and we are still waiting to hear. So as soon as I hear about that, I will let Sarah and let the rest of the board know as well. So at this time, number 3 on the list is a public hearing for variance for a setback for a well at 7.5 Jonathan Pass. So I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:39. Mr. Perry, come right forward. If you can just identify yourself.
Sure. Jim Perry, 352 Dudley Oxford Road in Dudley.
Okay.
So I currently have a new construction project at 7.5 Jonathan Pass, and I submitted a letter to the board requesting a variance for the 10-foot private well setback parameter to 8 feet. I'm not sure if the board has the latest. The as-built plan is with the Board of Health, but the subsequent specific survey was done, particularly for the exact precision point of the well. I'm not sure if you have that.
I'm not
if
sure.
not, I've got 2 or 3 copies here.
Bring it forward. That would be wonderful. Thank you. No, this is a new one. Thanks.
You can see the well location to the left rear of the property. Keep in mind that there is a town or state line boundary there as well. You'll see that, Thompson, Connecticut. The particular dimension is now in place. That as-built would be the same as what you have in your office now, except for that one notation that's on the well distance, which shows 9.09 feet. So being less than 10 feet, I submitted the letter to the board to request the variance. The letter actually said 8 feet because I didn't think it was appropriate to try to go with 9.08 or 9.09, just without being too specific. I just went down to the next number of 8 feet. If you do have any questions.
Mr. Purcell, do you have anything?
As a result of the installation, I did get to review the plan, and I consulted with the designing and inspecting engineer, and we did find that, according to the as-built and the information from the engineer, that it is 9 feet plus from the property line instead of the locally required 10-foot setback. Because it's greater than 100 feet from any other leaching facility, and it is less than 10 feet back from the property line of variance from the local regulations regarding the sideline setback would be required. Upon review of the as-built, I really don't find that there's much of a problem. The sideline setback or the setback requirement of 10 feet is more for what's called a construction easement, so that if any work has to be done on the well, the contractors won't be stepping on the property next door to access the well. There is no safety or no health regulation, and there is no state law that requires a sideline setback. It is a local variance only, and because it is greater than 100 feet from any other leaching facility, I don't find that there's a problem. I'd recommend approving the variance.
How far is it from the nearest leach field?
Well, the nearest leach field, it's actually from our own leach field, and our own leach field is 106 feet away from that well. The next closest would be, it's greater than 150 feet. It's well beyond any questionable distance from any other leach field.
Is this the lot 30A, is that where there's another house?
Yes, there is.
And that, you're saying that one's more than 150 feet away?
Yes, it is.
So if
There's-
those people had
the,
any
the
issue,
septic system is on the other side of the house.
so if those people had any issue and had to expand their leaching field, it wouldn't be an issue?
It's not a problem.
Okay.
Unfortunately, also, as far as the setback is concerned, if they had to expand, we take into consideration even the reserve area when we review the plans. And it's kind of first come, first serve. Whoever gets there first gets the pie. So if the well is there and there is no other earmark for a septic system within that area, then the well can stay. It's unfortunate that the well was placed 1 foot shy of the sideline setback, but penalty would have been possibly to re-drill a well, and that would be doing a manifest injustice to the homeowner for at the tune of about $6,000 or $7,000.
I know we have public, yep. If you can come up and just identify yourself, please. Come right up. You can come and sit at the table over there.
Scott McDonald, the adjacent property, 7 Jonathan Pass, and it's my property that he's encroaching on with his well. And when he did the water test, where you had to pump a certain amount of gallons per minute, I lost all water pressure in my house. That's my problem with this. If in the future, when he's running his water to water the lawn, whatever he's doing, if I lose water pressure, what is my repercussions to this? Is he going to pay for me to dig 200 feet deeper, pay for me to have a bigger pump?
Mr.
He's within, you said 9 feet of my property.
Right.
Yes.
He's looking for about a foot variance.
Well, it affected my well. That's all that matters.
Mr. Purcell, he's our health agent, and he's the one who has the most expertise in all of this, so I'm going to ask him. How far away is his well? Is this is your property, the one that's the 9 feet?
7. I'm 7. He's 7.5.
So we see
It's from
the existing well.
the well on Lot 7 is, or on 7 Jonathan Pass, is 129 feet from the leach facility, on Mr. Perry's leaching facility, which meets the required
That's-
setback.
That's from his leach field, not from his well.
Excuse me.
I understand. I'm in the
Excuse
middle
me.
of my sentence.
Sure.
And can I just remind you that you're going to address the questions to me, where I'm the chair, and then we'll go through him, just so that we keep it orderly and we get to hear everybody who's talking. Okay.
The offset to the well on 7, I'm not sure what the distance is. Unfortunately, when wells are being drilled, oftentimes they can be drilled into the same fissure. And the fissure, there is no requirement for well setbacks for separation from wells. If you were to use the 10-foot standard from the sideline, each one of them would have been, the requirement then would become 20 feet, would be the recommended setback. This one is certainly greater than 20 feet. And if well A happens to drill into the same fissure that well B is in, there's nothing that regulates that at this time. I mean, there just isn't. There's nothing that the Board of Health can do about that.
Okay.
We can't regulate that. We can't make Mr. Perry re-drill a new well.
Okay.
There may be other ways to deal with it. That would be, either re-drilling wells or deepening the wells to provide more reservoir for each or both of the wells. It's actually pretty common too that one well can impact other wells. It's not unusual.
Go ahead.
I understand that there's reasons that they make these rules, and if he's within 10 feet of my property, there's a reason they made these rules, so that you don't have problems where he's denying my water source by using his water source.
Just so that you understand, the 10-foot rule is a town law,
Sure.
not a state law.
Sure.
So it's something that our town has come up with, and it is for the construction, so that vehicles don't go on your property. The state doesn't mandate the 10-foot rule.
And when I measured it, it's more like 7 foot, because there's a property marker right there. I didn't trespass on his property. I put the measure tape out to the tip of the well. It was like 7.6 inches, so it's less than 9. But anyhow.
Well, I just will let you know that we go by an engineer. We ask to be provided with engineered plans, and that's what the engineer is
It wouldn't have
stating
concerned-
that this is.
Wouldn't have concerned me, but when he did the water pressure test, I couldn't even run anything in my house. It has 0 water. 0.
We're spitting
Like,
there.
it was like dropping drops. So how am I going to run my house when he's running irrigation and running his washer and dryer at his house?
Do you have any questions?
If I may, Madam Chairman, you'll find that when the well test, when the well test was done, they did what they call an airlift, which means they blew the well out and they drained it. And what they do to measure it for gallonage, for flow, to meet the 5 gallons a minute, they usually do what's called an airlift and then a recovery time. Instead of standing there and flowing the water for a 4-hour period at 5 gallons a minute or flowing 1,200 gallons out, I know the shortcut is they do the math. We blow the water out. We know what the well volume is, and we time it to see how long it recovers, how long it takes to recover. So what you get is inflow plus storage, and we get to figure out in 2 hours what the 4-hour rate is. That's all. Unfortunately, I think that what might have happened if they blew the well out and they're in the same fissure and if they're in close proximity, it may have impacted the well. And
Can we find out if that did happen or not?
well, I think at this time, I'm not sure that Mr. Perry is using his well or not yet. Testing probably could be done if the two abutters wanted to get together to run some quantity tests between yourselves, just to see if there is a problem. But I think that the most extreme thing happened typically at the time. Was they do an airlift and they blew the well out. When they blow all the water out, and when they do, it might have compromised your well.
We just don't want to find out after the fact, after the variance goes through, that we still have a problem. If I ever have to go to sell that property, I'm going to have to do something in order to fix that because it won't sell. So, again, I don't know if 10 feet will make a difference, and this is nothing against Mr. Perry. His contractor should have known it should have been 10 feet from my property. So that's all that I'm saying. There's nothing against him. He should have recourse with his contractor then, because he should have known the well regulations of Dudley is 10 feet from the property line, and it is not.
There's a reason these laws are made, so that you don't have problems like this. So how do we know in the future we're not going to have a problem?
That's what
I'm
I'm
saying is
saying.
when he ran the test, and I know he's saying, oh, well, this is a extreme test. It's not going to happen in the future. Well, how do I know that? When he's got his sprinkler on and he's taking a shower, all of a sudden I can't flush my toilet, all right?
Yeah, we just don't want to find out after the fact. The variance goes through, and we still have huge problems where I cannot sell that property. So where is our recourse? If it does just go through, because environmentally, he's good. When really, at 10 feet, he could be good, that I don't get that problem anymore. And we won't know that if the variance goes through. And I won't know if the problem still exists until Mr. Perry moves into his house. So where's our recourse?
And then if I got to
as
drill
property
200
owners?
feet deeper and put a stronger pump, who's paying for that? I shouldn't have to pay for that.
Because we would just fine. And if we're all in the same aqueduct, like usually a neighborhood like that is, we never had problems before. And we have a sprinkler system. So we never, ever had problems with our water pressure.
Now we do.
Only when he was running his test. We could see that they were running the test, the hose was running. So they were running that flow test. And we had a huge problem. It was spitting our water. So I don't want to find out after the fact, after the variance goes through, that I'm out of luck.
Do we have a copy of the test and who did the test?
Yes, we do. It's in the file.
Here.
And whether they did the loading test or if they just ran the water in a bucket?
I can tell.
Thank you.
I think I can tell from the well report, the well driller's report.
The test is probably going to show that it pulled the water that it has to pull to be a valuable well, but they didn't come over and ask me, "Hey, do you have any water left?" You know?
Is that a general requirement or no?
It's not a requirement.
No.
Did they run a test on the geotherm wells, or was it
No.
just on the drinking well?
No, there's no water test on geothermal.
I didn't know if there was or not.
Yeah, that's a,
If you had to pull anything.
there's no water in them actually at this
And
point.
they're not pumping up, they're just
They're
using it
not
for...
pumping it all.
They
over
just
the heat
actually,
exchange.
right, exactly. I knew that.
Geothermal.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding everything correctly, so that so when they were doing the testing on the well is when you lost all the water pressure and everything, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
There's been no water run since?
There's been some garden hose for plastering, that's the extent really.
Okay, okay. So we don't, that's what I just wanted to know. And when you've run the garden hose, have you noticed anything? Just curious, just
He's
wanted
not
to
even
know.
living in the house yet, as
Not
far
at
as
all.
we
No,
know.
no,
so-
I
No,
understand
not at
that.
all. No.
I'm just trying to make
Yep.
sure that we have
No,
all
not
the
at all.
information so that we know where to go from here.
I mean, I'd be happy to run I think it's a 3/4 hose.
Right,
Run
just
it
a-
right off the well tank.
To me, that isn't a real-life situation.
No,
at
I just
all.
was curious
Okay.
as to,
Yeah,
The testing isn't a real-life situation
Oh,
either.
no, not at all.
It's extreme
yes.
case
And I don't know if they were going
seeing
for
what
5
kind of
gallons
water's
per
in
minute,
there.
15 gallons per minute. I don't know what.
But
the
there's a
test
reason
was
they
for.
set that at 5 gallons per minute, because that would probably be the maximum that anybody could ever run. There's a reason they set that limit, because if we do it at the max, and it shouldn't affect the neighbor. Now, if you do it at the max and it does affect the neighbor, then yeah, there should be a problem.
And
If I-
who is to say, if I didn't start running stuff over at my house, that flow test maybe wouldn't have passed?
Yeah, I could have turned my sprinklers on and made this thing
You know
fail,
what I mean?
you know?
But we didn't know till after the fact, when they were started it.
did we find anything on the well report?
Yes.
Mr. Purcell?
Okay, it says on August 28th, 2015, they used a constant rate pump. They got a 5 gallon a minute yield. They ran it let's see, it was pumped at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night. I don't know which.
Oh, it wasn't at night.
Excuse me, just let him,
Yep.
please.
Okay. And the pumping level, it was drawn down to 212 feet, and it recovered, looks like it recovered back to 96 feet. It went 212 feet below grade, and then it recovered in a 2-hour period, 96 feet. And I believe it's 1.5 gallons per column foot is the dimension of the well and the recovery rate and all of that. We're looking at 116 feet of recovery, which is 232 feet or 240 gallons in a 2-hour period, which is, yeah. divided by 120 is, it'll give you the, plus the reservoir itself, the yield is 5 gallons a minute, roughly, doing the math in my head. The reason, first of all, that a 5 gallon a minute yield is used is because it's FHA, it's federal housing standard. We chose to adopt the 5 gallon a minute because that's a typical delivery that most homeowners would use. 5 gallons a minute over a 4-hour period, or we're looking to be able to produce 1,200 gallons a minute, 1,200 gallons a day. That usually will meet most of the requirements for a single-family home without any problems, and people should not be running out of water. That's on a single home. Like I said, unfortunately, if it's in the same fissure, it's not an aquifer, it's not groundwater, it's not impacted by anything except cracks in the bedrock itself. In this particular case, the bedrock is only 20 feet down, or thereabouts, and the total depth of the well is about 500 feet. I take that back. Yep, total well depth, 540 feet. And it's 12-foot depth to bedrock. So, like I said, the 5 gallon a minute is a production rate that, under most circumstances, a single-family house can operate at 5 gallons a minute and never really run out of water. That's where the 5 gallons a minute was chosen. Unfortunately, there is no statutory or regulatory offset other than what we create at the local level. And we've adopted a 10-foot offset to property line, which means the closest two wells can be is 20 feet apart. And we do not have any regulations, or there are no regulations for people drilling into the same fissure. There's ways to deal with it. If it does run into a problem, you might be able to hydrofrack, you might be able to dig deeper, you might be able, there are a lot of things you might be able to do. Some invasive, some non-invasive things to correct that matter. Okay?
So in your professional opinion, would a well distance of roughly 140 feet matter 1 to 2 feet?
Again, we find that if it's in the same fissure, first of all, it shouldn't make any difference other than if it is in the same fissure, there's nothing that the local Board of Health can do, making Mr. Perry or his abutter, his friend, to re-drill a new well. Not at this level. We can't. I don't see there's anything we can do.
Again, you're saying 140 feet. You're talking 140 feet from any septic. He's not 140 feet from my well. He's like 30 feet from my well.
Well to
And
well
he's
is
within
30?
9 feet of my property.
Well to well is roughly 30 feet?
I think if you look on the plan, it's 4 inches. I think it's 20 feet to an inch, I think.
Within 20 feet. I'm sorry. Even better on my behalf.
No, I believe
there
it's,
it is.
I believe it's 80
Yeah,
feet.
it's over there.
That's the existing well for
That's
7.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
The bottom line is that the town makes certain ordinances for certain reasons, and this is one of the reasons. If they wouldn't have said don't be within 10 feet of your neighbor if they know there's not going to be problems. Well, we have a problem.
So we're showing 3 inches from 10 feet.
Yep.
It's not even the length of the entire well if he had to re-drill it off 3 inches.
Okay. So, Mr. Purcell, do you have any more to add at this point during the public hearing?
Well, just to say that, first of all, I did write the well regs for the town of Dudley quite some time ago. The 10-foot offset is for no other reason other than what's called a construction easement, and nothing more than that. It doesn't protect the neighbor, it doesn't protect their water supply, it doesn't protect Mr. Perry. We really can't dictate what goes on 200, 300, 400 feet down. We don't have any control over the fissures, other than we're assuming that everything is perpendicular and straight down. Other than that, I really have nothing else to say.
Okay. So, do you have anything else to add during the public hearing?
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing. Just seems like there's a lot of guessing going on here, that it wouldn't have been a problem if he was at 10 feet. No one really knows that. So we do have regulations for a reason, and we did have a problem when they were doing the flow test over there. So I don't know. Again, it's not against the homeowner. It should be against his contractor, who should have known the well regulations of the town, that it should be 10 feet. So I don't think a town should go and give him the variance because his contractor didn't know the well regulations of the town.
When was the well drilled? I'm sorry to interrupt.
The only person being hurt by that is us. It's hurting my property value, it's hurting what I have, and that's what bothers me. You know, in the future, who knows? I might have to drill 2,000 or 200 more feet down and put a bigger pump in. Who's going to pay for that? I shouldn't have to pay for that because somebody drilled too close to me. That's what my problem is.
Okay.
The well was drilled around August 28th, 2015.
Okay. And then we received the as-built, which showed the well was off.
Yes. And the as-built, I think you have.
It wasn't like they did a sax.
Excuse me. Just let us, okay.
Where's the, this?
Drawing says 10/28/15.
That was that one, right?
The last as-built, the one that you'd be looking at with the corrected,
Yep.
or the information regarding the sideline setback.
It's next to 12.
That's over here? $11,315.
Only a few days after
Don't
this.
have that one. This is it this one? No, this is the same one.
Yeah. But see, it's stamped engineer.
Oh, so it's the same one I have
Yep.
right there. Okay.
You're good. Okay.
So if he moved it 3 inches over, just say he had to pull it out and move it over 3 inches, it's going to be in the same water supply that it was in. Right. Perhaps not.
The indication is that it's going to be pretty much move at the diameter of the well. First of all, if the abutter is, depending on where people measure the well from, we use as a standard to the center of the well, not the edge of the well.
Oh, I see. So that's where your difference of 7
That's where
versus 9 comes
the-
up, because it's
the
center
abutter
of
is
the well.
may be measuring the side of the well or the wellhead
Right.
or the well cap. We do our measurement on the center line of the well. And that's where the acceptable standard is measured at that point. That might explain the differentiation in measurement. The likelihood of moving the well a foot or so to correct the setback requirement, I'm assuming you would probably still hit the same fissure, but again, I have no idea for sure. I don't think anybody really does.
So,
One thing, if I could mention through the chair,
yeah.
the water quality test on this particular well is extremely good. And another well a foot away might not be good.
That's quality, not volume.
No, but I'm just saying that you could encounter something in a subsequently drilled well. You know, we've been around Dudley forever. You know, we have everything from arsenic to iron to radon to manganese, and this particular water test is just is terrific. So, you know, to put additional well or wells in could encounter other issues too, and could be mitigation for me as well as in the butter. So I mean, just throwing that out there. I mean,
I guess one of my last questions would be, so on the original plans for the well, it was
It's supposed to be 10 feet.
10 feet. And was there a reason, did something, or was it just, I didn't know if we ever received it. I will get to you, okay? Just bear with me one moment. Trust me, everybody will have their chance. I just was curious if it was like, if we ever found out why or what happened or how or.
The likelihood is, and again, I'm speaking through experience and common practice. I don't know that the well was staked out by the land surveyor. And even if it was staked out by the land surveyor versus the well driller taking a stake out and backing up the well rig, and if he misplaced it by a foot, which is, I'm not saying that it's acceptable. That's why we're here, because it's not acceptable.
Right.
But it certainly has, in the past, has never been an issue.
Has this happened before in the past, where they've put it in the wrong place?
I think in 25 years, I've only seen that happen once, one other time.
And the responsibility falls onto the well driller.
It's on the well driller, or or Mr. Perry, because he's the property owner.
If I were the property owner, just speaking personally, if I may, if my well driller put it in the wrong place, then as the homeowner, I'm not responsible for it.
Is that to me to respond to?
No, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I would feel about
I
that.
feel similarly, however, you know how things are today. Two things, I guess. If you look at the as-built there, you'll see that corner there is very tight with the available space, meaning the 10-foot setback, the 100-foot to the septic, and the Thompson-Dudley line. There is very little movement there that one can make. So, the rig got in there and put the bit down, and, they were off some. And, I mean, I've seen, great contractors make little mistakes, frequently. I could, litigate against them. It'd be a long, tough process, and there are other factors in addition to the cost that the inspector mentioned. I've got a geothermal system there. I'm going very green on this property with some latest technology. I need to finish up the house and get occupancy this year, which is not a problem, but if I end up in court, I lose in excess of $10,000 on a federal tax rebate, which ends in 2016. So, it's not quite as easy just to go to the well company and say, you were off by 11 inches or something, you got to drill again. They're going to, even if they agree to do it, they're going to struggle all the way to the next step. So I feel like you do, but the steps to move forward in that direction would just be a brutal grind.
Okay.
The well company knew well that they were moving. They drilled, didn't hit nothing. They drilled, didn't hit nothing. They kept coming closer to my property. They knew they were varying from the original request, so they knew that they were going to be within my property. And the bottom line is the town makes rules for a reason. So now now we're gonna like bend it because somebody
and-
is not happy with it.
I do understand that, but we also have variances for a reason. And we have given variances before, and I don't know what's going to transpire, but just so that you know, we do set up rules. There is a 10-foot construction buffer for this. That is set up by our town. And the town does allow us to give variances when we see fit for septic system, wells, things of that nature. So there are rules with guidelines, but there also are variances to allow for things that happen. And I do know that in the past, we have given variances for wells and septics and things. I don't know what's going to transpire, just so that you understand.
I understand that, and the variance
there
happen
are-
for a reason, but it only affects me. I'm the only one losing in this situation. Nobody else, only me.
I do understand.
Spent a lot of money for my property. That's it.
And I think if it wasn't the case that he kept coming closer and closer to our, and the only reason why we knew this, they were making a lot of noise and our dogs were going crazy. So we were out there watching them. So I can tell you that he just couldn't, whatever he was drilling, he couldn't get to something, and I don't know your business, sir, but he couldn't get what he needed, and he kept coming further, closer and closer to our property and further from his. So he knew. He saw the stake there. He knew.
Mr. Purcell?
Just got a question. I mean, this gentleman had said that they've attempted several drillings.
Yes.
How many times did they drill?
Oh,
I believe it was the third time when they finally went and got what they hit.
And they moved
Yes,
their well
yes,
rig and
yes.
derrick and everything else?
Yes.
1 foot?
Oh, I
I'm
couldn't
not
tell
sure
you.
how far they were moving, but each time I could tell, they drilled and drilled for like a day and a half, nothing.
Oh, you-
Then they moved
you-
another day and a half.
You said there was a stake.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
How far away from the stake were they?
From the property
No, no, no.
stake, or?
No, you said there was a stake where they were supposed to drill.
Oh, yeah.
How far away were they from the stake?
I couldn't say. I'm not going on his property. I'm not trespassing.
Oh,
But when it was all said and done, I went out there and there's a metal stake where my property ends. And I did the tape measure. I didn't walk on his property. And you guys are saying 9.9. I got 7 foot with my tape measure from that metal stake on my property.
Through the chair, the rig, I know, moved a lot, but because it drilled 3 wells.
He's admitting.
I can't, they didn't drill a day and a half and move and start drilling a private well again. I know that for a fact. I'm up there every day.
There are actually 3 wells on the property. There are 2 geotherm wells that they drilled, and so as they were drilling, if they started at the far one, they were getting closer to your property so that they could drill all 3 wells.
It's true. They're in line, as you can see there.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask if you have any additional comments? Anything else to add at this time?
No, I'm all set. Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you have anything else to add at this time?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. I'll entertain.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed at 7:16. Okay, so now we have to discuss,
Discuss accepting the variance, is that what we're discussing?
we're discussing, yes, what,
So the way I see it, we'd have to make a motion to either accept or deny. I'll make a motion to accept the variance and then vote.
And then discuss after? Okay.
you want to second it?
What do
Oh, do you-
we have to make a motion.
I'm sorry, in order to discuss.
Make a motion to accept the variance as written.
I second that, and we're up for discussion,
I have
yes.
a motion and a second. Now it's open for discussion. Okay. I'm at a loss here, Tom.
I have an opinion, if I may.
By all means.
I just feel that because there is a question about the water testing and the flow from the neighbor's property, that there should be further testing done on both properties at the same time prior to giving a variance.
Is that,
Is that
something-
feasible?
is that within our control or not?
Is
the
that,
question.
right, is that fair of me to request?
I suppose what you could do is you could make Mr. Perry retest for water quality, quantity as well, and the abutter, Mr. Scott, is that his name?
No,
McDonald?
McDonald. Mr.
Sorry.
McDonald.
Thank you.
If he wishes to have his quantity checked as well,
if they could.
there's a way, I believe, they can test if the two wells are in the same fissure. And I don't know that anybody has really spoken to the well driller. I mean, my experience is you find out what the real problem is and then deal with it. There's several ways to deal with it. You can either hydrofrack, you can drill deeper, you can relocate the well. I think there's a lot of alternatives. One thing we haven't heard from on either side is from the well driller. Those are the professionals on how to handle or how to remedy this situation. It does fall under the civil rules for riparian rights, but I don't really believe that wells fall into that category. When somebody does something on one property and affects what goes on in others, and that's actually a civil action and something that's well beyond what the Board of Health's capability of enforcement is.
I guess my thing is I'd like to know more as to if it was a fluke or if it is a consistency.
I suppose what you could do is ask for, continue the hearing, and ask for an opinion from the well driller or drillers, from a couple of well companies, and ask what the remedies are. Take into consideration all the remedies before you render a final decision. It's going to be time, but if you want to continue it till the next
What does the
Board of
board
Health meeting.
feel?
It's certainly something the well driller or the well operators can perform, or have them come to represent them.
What's the board feel? Anyone?
We opened the motion to,
Right, so we're still in discussion, so.
So you'd have to reopen
We can reopen the public hearing,
it and,
so
Continue.
right now we open the motion to
and that's not a problem.
vote, okay. If you know how to word that correctly, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna, would you like to change your motion?
Would you like to withdraw that motion?
I would like to withdraw the
There you
motion
go.
for the vote for the variance as written.
Perfect. So we can reopen and
reopen the public hearing and ask Mr. Perry to,
I feel like we need, how do you feel?
to get a more professional
I
opinion on.
I don't have enough information.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to reopen the public hearing at 7:21 for the variance at 7.5 Jonathan Pass. Mr. Perry, so what we would like is more information, the well company, the well drillers, if they could come to the next meeting, maybe give us some more information. Can we have another test performed? Is that, I think that's something,
Either have another test or again, if Mr. McDonald is willing to have his well tested too, grant permission,
I think we've got
access to the property.
The thing is, because we're not experts in this room, I think we have to go and find the right questions to ask so that we
Exactly.
can have do the proper due diligence to
Right.
make the appropriate decision. So, if that's bringing, we can tentatively ask for, experts, and in the meantime, we can reach out and get some of these questions formulated and brought to the right people.
It's also going to bring us out another month, so if it's in your best interest to work together as neighbors and get a water quality test done, water quantity test done together to find out what's going on, so that perhaps in a month we can just approve this and move forward for your sake and your home,
So who is the well drillers?
This is Richardson Wells and Pumps.
We have that, don't we?
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have all
that
the
paperwork.
information.
So, can you request, do you want us to send a request to them, or
No.
have him? If you could request for them, our next meeting is April 19th at 6:30. You'll be one of the first ones up. It's April 19th at 6:30. And hopefully we'll be able to get some more information and be a little more educated on everything.
So should we make an attempt in the next month to try to get a simultaneous water quantity test done? If you, I mean, is that something we should, I don't know if, you talk to them and it's like, try to get a contractor out
I
in
think
4
we'd
weeks.
prefer that if the two abutters work together
I definitely think if you
Yeah.
can.
to understand if there is an issue or not, because most of the regulations appear to be independent of one another. It puts us in a difficult position.
Okay.
I mean, it seems that a test of equal type on each well at the same time would be helpful. I don't know if we can
Right, that,
do
makes sense
that
to
in
me.
the
it
next
makes sense, but it's definitely something
5
that
weeks. But
you both would have to work out together.
Sure.
It's not something that
Sure.
we
Yeah.
can say, and if in the next month or so you have any correspondence, you can get it to our office. By all means, you know where we are. So we will
So now it's a motion to,
continue.
all right,
Continue.
make a motion to continue the public hearing until next meeting.
Second that motion.
I have a motion to continue the public hearing till April 19th at 6:35. I'm going to have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll see both of you back
Okay,
next
thank
week?
you.
Next month, excuse me. Oh, that was continued at 7:25. Okay. Up next, number 4 on the agenda, we will be opening a public hearing for the proposed cemetery at Corbin Road. Teresa, you ready? I'm opening the public hearing at 7:25 for the proposed cemetery on Corbin Road. Good evening. We're going to have a few things, and then I will get to the public again. Just want to remind everyone, like the last month, we will get to all your public comments. We'll have you come up to the podium, state your name, where you live, and go forward. We do ask that everything be addressed through the chair, and the board members and my health agent have the priority to ask any questions. So thank you for that. Okay, so we received correspondence yesterday from the engineer from the Islamic Society of Greater Worcester asking to continue this meeting until our April meeting. We did send out a letter of request to them with some preliminary information and asking them to get us the information, but they have asked for a continuance, so we will be, that's why there is no one here this evening on their behalf. We were notified yesterday that they would like to continue it till April. Okay. So, does any board members, do you have any comments?
Once again, we're looking, we've received quite a bit of feedback. We're formulating what we believe to be the right questions to ask based on the concerns that we're receiving. And those are the questions that are, that the engineer is due to answer. So, we can continue to take new items. Hopefully, if you're here to discuss tonight, you've a lot of the same faces from previous meetings. Is there new information? Is there new questions? I think we've been talking about the the Dover Act
yeah.
great lengths, and it doesn't really have an impact on the Board of Health. It's health and safety here tonight. So we can continue the conversation, but just knowing that we won't be able to get answers because they're unable to attend tonight.
Mr. Purcell, I know you were away at our last meeting. You did receive a copy of the letter that we had sent to them with some initial requests, and I know that you did send us, you had a chance to review the plan, and we're also looking for some additional things to be added to that.
Yes. If I may, Madam Chairman, I did have communication with DEP. Is one of my initial attempts to find out if there were any regulations or requirements for siting of cemeteries. And if I may read into the minutes, a letter from John Chronopoulos from DEP. He's the Deputy Regional Director for the Worcester area. Hello, Mr. Purcell. Per our discussion last week about what regulations would pertain to the siting of cemeteries, I have discussed with a few staff members within DEP and have the following. First bullet, there are no regulations associated with the siting of cemeteries with regard to Massachusetts DEP solid waste regulations at 310 CMR 16.00 or 310 CMR 19.00. The drinking water regulations only restrict that within 100 feet of any surface water body, and that's C 310 CMR 22.20B5, and regulations do not allow a non-public water supply related activity within Zone 1 of the groundwater resources. Though difficult to enforce, if the public water supply does not own the land, then it's difficult to enforce. We have to see 310 CMR 22.21 for groundwater restrictions. Mass DEP's private well model does not allow us have a setback for cemeteries, but 100 feet is mentioned as a setback for many of the pollution threats as a septic system, as for a septic system. Also, there are no specific setbacks for wetlands regulations regarding cemeteries, but there still may be a need for pre-construction review, and a proponent should definitely have the resource areas delineated and presented on a plan. All the public water supplies and source protection areas should also be identified on the plan. Now, what I did, based on that communication and personal experience with site plans and different functions, what I did was I made a list of proposed requirements that the board might want to consider making it part of the siting requirement. Some of these overlap not just public health, but they overlap other jurisdictions like zoning, police, et cetera. I did have an opportunity to review the plan. The original plan that was submitted was not up to something that I would have expected for an ordinary site plan. What I would suggest is the proposed site planning requirements for cemeteries would be, first of all, a property survey showing the meets and bounds or the angles and distances of the property. Define what the property looks like. Number one, a proper wetlands delineation showing the bordering vegetated wetlands and any standing water on the property. Identify any proposed structures.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When you talk about standing water,
that would be open bodies of water, ponds.
So one of the concerns is that seasonal. So if it's only in the spring, that counts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That might be even vernal pools or any such a thing like that.
Just want to understand the definition of standing water.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Identify any proposed structures, roads, buildings, markings, markers, grave markers, et cetera, walkways and other impervious surfaces. That would include mausoleums and office buildings, sanitary facilities, et cetera. What I would consider is an existing I request is an existing topographical survey and a proposed post-construction survey showing 2-foot contours, something that be easily readable on about a 40 scale plan or thereabouts would be something that would be acceptable. And the locus map, the plan that I saw had no streets, no byways of any type marked on it. We don't know. Didn't know exactly where the property was. There's a typo here for item 6. I called for soil. It says soil borings or excavated test pits, approximately 3 per acre, to show soil composition, depth to bedrock, and groundwater determination. I think it's reasonable to find out what's there on the site first before any work can be done.
If I might, and that's where we also want for you to be present during that, as well as I know there's other members and it was discussed with other people from that area, a few of them going out as well.
Yeah, we could, it shouldn't be a problem to witness them. We'd have to make sure that we get compensated for it. One of the other goals of doing the soil borings would be to also identify the soils and perform a hydrogeologic survey of the proposed site. For any of the groundwater movement, we want to find out what direction it's moving and will it have any impact on where it'll be impacted downstream, if it will at all. If downstream meaning through groundwater movement. The hydrogeologic survey would be to determine where the groundwater itself is moving, how it moves, and what impact it'll have downstream.
I will get to public comments after, okay? Everybody,
Information. Did you give them the continuance or didn't you?
it is being continued. We're in open discussion.
So are we in public hearing right now?
We are in public hearing, yes.
How did they get the continuance?
We're discussing it at this moment. These are things that we're discussing.
Not here.
They have a continuance because they have to fill our requests that we submitted to them.
But these are things that we are discussing right now. They're not here. They're going to receive this in writing. This is information from our health agent to us.
Jim, this is a point of information.
I understand.
If you're convening the public hearing, okay, then the public hearing, at some point the public can get to speak, but they're not here. If you continued the public hearing for them,
We are.
okay, and they don't, that means they have no knowledge to show up here.
They are aware of it. We are going to be corresponding back to them. They sent in
I
an
just don't
email.
want to get caught in a legal bind as to
No.
where you held a public hearing and they didn't have the opportunity to be here.
They were informed that it was a public hearing. They were informed that it would be held tonight. They stated they could not meet it and asked if we would continue the public hearing. We have documentation of that. We have not continued the public hearing yet. We are still in the public hearing.
That was the main question. Did you
That's
continue-
not as of yet, no.
Okay, thank you. That's all
We
I
are
have.
in the currently in the public hearing,
Thank you.
okay?
'Cause I was under the impression you gave them the continuance.
Not at this time.
Okay.
We are still in a public hearing.
Could you speak up when the heat is on? It's really hard to hear you.
My wife usually tells me to keep it quiet, but I'll do the best I can.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, we were at the point of the hydrogeologic survey to determine which way the groundwater is moving and see where impacts are. These are things that the naked eye wouldn't be able to see anyhow. Everything is happening underground. are actually standing on groundwater or mud, but the mud's got a nice crust of anywhere from 2 to 10 feet of dry material, and we don't fall in. Okay, one of the, to provide some relief, instead of trying to develop the whole site at once, I suggested with item 8 that if they if they wanted to do it in phases, to take certain area, like an acre or 2 acres or 5 acres, and develop that one area first and develop all the requirements, and meet all of our site plan requirements, and just restrict it to that one area, I would suggest that they approach it on a phase basis instead of an entire project. And each phase would be coming back in for a public hearing and et cetera. One of the other things that should be is a common cemetery practice. We want to see where the spoils and the debris are going to be stockpiled. We want, I would suggest that we provide, that we have the applicant provide information regarding fences or any proposed signage, et cetera. Number 11 is to provide information regarding proposed traffic plans to and from the facility and along the way with any proposed signage. And then item 12 would be to provide BMPP or best management practices plan for the following: for preparation of remains, the burial depths and offsets, burial containers, or is it going to be green burial practices, or both? Property maintenance program, security plan, fencing, gates, emergency access plans, et cetera. I'm sure that there may be other questions to ask. Other boards may require or request certain data. There are certain things that would have to be done with identifying the wetlands, and any work being done within 200 feet of the wetlands would be a Conservation Commission issue.
That would not be encompassed in the Board of Health's regulations, or would we grab all the information from all the boards and put that in one?
For the site planning itself, because the Board of Health is the permitting authority for the cemeteries, it doesn't hurt to ask for and meet as much get as much information as we can before it gets presented. There still may be following things like I'm not sure that the town has stormwater management. That's beyond our scope, but if that's the planning board matter, if they're going to be working within 200 feet of the wetlands, bordering vegetated wetlands or such, I believe there's a town regulation that says that they have to apply before the planning board, before the Conservation Commission, but the real limits of work are the 100-foot buffer zone or the 100-foot area. Again, and that falls into Conservation Commission jurisdiction.
I do know that Conservation has been in communication with the ZBA regarding information. And the ZBA also has asked for additional information from us as well as to what we're looking for, so we will forward.
All right. Well, like I said, I think most of the stuff that most everybody should or would be looking for, including police and fire, access to the site. There may be comments from other boards and agencies around that should have some concerns. I don't treat this any differently than I would a solar farm or a housing development or any other suggested activity. And then obviously there are further things depending on what they plan on doing. If there's going to be sanitary facilities on the site, if there's going to be wells or drinking water, or how are they going to handle all of that? That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. At this time, if anyone from the public has any comments, you may come right up.
Please know that Tom was not at the first couple of meetings, so
Yeah.
anything that he said that doesn't jive with what we've already heard, it's just because he hasn't heard it himself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Richard Raymond, 191 Corbin Road. Thank you. I just wanted, that earlier point of information was to clarify whether or not they were given a continuance. And the best information I have at this time, based on what you told me, is the fact that they were not given a continuance, but they were given more time to respond to your letter.
We are still in an open public hearing.
Exactly. So there is a public hearing going on tonight. Okay. Based on that, I would like to, through you, ask your health agent, if you got a bowl of water and you put a brick in it, the water spills over the bowl. Okay? And I say that because of the fact that they were talking about groundwater, surface water, what's just below the surface and stuff like that. When you start putting 16,000 or even less concrete vaults in the ground, where does that groundwater go to? Okay, it's no different than putting a brick in a bowl of water. Okay, and it's no different than if you had to put a cellar hole in a development area. How many could you put in before you have an effect on the water table everywhere you go? Maybe not true with a solar farm, but certainly with a housing development. So from the Board of Health's perspective, the question has always been one of water, quality of water, the aquifer in the area, and where will all of that end up, along with the vaults, okay, and decaying material that are going to be put in those vaults, and what it may do to the groundwater and where that groundwater ends up, okay. I certainly understand there is 55 acres there. I certainly understand the mere fact that there are probably 2 undocumented ponds, at least 1 undocumented pond, and probably an undocumented stream which connects the ponds and also connects down to other areas as it feeds all the way down, actually, to the wellheads on Schofield Ave, okay, which is a main water source for the town of Dudley. So from the point of view from the Board of Health, those are our concerns. We certainly understand there are other committees that we have to bring our concerns to, whether it be conservation, planning, zoning, or even the Board of Selectmen, wherever, okay? But from the Board of Health perspective, those are our concerns. The water, where's it going to go, and what's it going to be like when it goes, and where does it end up, okay? I've lived there over 40 years. Many of the people in this room, and Christ, the Borowskis here, I think they stuck the first shovel in the dirt down there, back 150 years ago. But and Larry, it's past your bedtime. Yeah. But that notwithstanding, is we know the land, okay? We know it's there. We know what it is. Our homes, I don't think there's a home on the top of the hill that doesn't have a sump pump that runs quite a bit. Okay, and we talk about water quality, and we talk about setbacks. Earlier tonight you were talking about 11-inch well location, okay, and the quality of water and the health involved in that. So we had some grave concerns, particularly what they want to put there. They're not looking to put a housing development there, okay. They're not looking. They're looking to bury people, and God bless them. I hope they find a suitable location. We just don't believe that is a suitable location, particularly because of what we believe the aquifers, what the town water department believes of the aquifers, because they went and they did test drilling on it and received a tremendous amount of water. They just had problems at that time in 2 areas. And the 2 areas was, they had a radon problem, which can be remediated, but they also had a problem with the infrastructure from the location of doing that and and the cost to bring it into the rest of the town. It was going to be pretty cost forbidden. So therefore, it was not going to be economically feasible to put town water there at that time. As the town grows and as the town develops, though, it may be a needed situation. Okay, particularly the water department is already looking for new well sources. So those are my comments to the Board of Health. Those are the questions we need answered. Those are our concerns for the Board of Health.
We do completely understand, and that is why we are looking to get those answers from them. Thank you.
Matt Dix, 184 Corbin Road. I was just curious, the additional information that was just presented to us, I'm not sure what his title is that going over as additional requests to the group? that they're gonna need to meet?
His title, he is Tom Purcell. He is our health agent, just so you know who he is.
Yeah.
He was not at the last meetings. That information we have received just within the past couple days, and that is something we're discussing this evening. We do not, this is the first time we've met since we've received this information, so that's something we'll discuss tonight.
Whether whether the additional
Right.
requests are gonna go over?
Right.
How would we as the public know if another letter is gonna come over to the group? Are we allowed to know?
It is public information.
I think you made a lot of good points. I think some of it was redundant to stuff that you asked, but I'm glad he took the time to make the list, but there was some additional
Oh, most definitely, and that's,
requirements in there that I
that's-
completely agree with
that's
people
why
that
we
I've
have a
talked
health
with in the
agent.
industry. Right.
it is something that you can check with our office. I would say, we'll know tonight. We'll be making a decision as to what we'll be sending out. As for when the letter would be compiled, most likely it would be Thursday, depending on our clerk. I would
And
say
that will just be an addendum to what we've already sent,
an
correct?
addendum, that's correct.
Yeah, if there's anything redundant, obviously we won't send that.
Right,
but
we don't wanna waste
does-
time, but there were-
Anything new, we can add that and say, another new letter with, please also see the additional attached questions.
And then lastly, I couldn't hear everything that was said, and I don't remember everything that went out in the first letter. Are we asking these folks to stake that property, so when we approach the property for test wells and things like that, we know that we're actually testing areas where the proposed bodies will be buried in the ground, not some abstract location on the property?
We're hoping to have a plan that shows us more details
Okay. Test well locations, things like that?
and to at least know where, and like Mr. Purcell said, he wanted to do it on,
Well, first of all, if I may,
Certainly.
Madam Chairman, I guess the first question they have to answer is, do they want to approach it as the site as a whole, or do they want to break it down into phases? And if they break it down into phases, each phase would be taken as a whole, and not the entire site. Soil borings, again, I said, like I said in my request or recommendation, I've been looking at 3 per acre. What we do is, when we do soil testing for septic systems, et cetera, for new construction, just to demonstrate continuity of soils, to identify, again, elevations to groundwater, bedrock, et cetera, et cetera. We usually have 4 per site. But if we're talking a big site like this, 3 would still be representative.
Per
It used to
acre.
be 2. But what we're looking for is continuity and to identify. And more or less, actually, to confirm what we already know. We have a pretty good idea of what to expect up there. Unfortunately, the USGS, the U.S. Geological Service and Soil Conservation Service map it's a flown map, and it's 1 to 25,000 scale. And why we go in on such close testing is that we know that there's deviation, but we're looking to identify the quality of the soils, make sure we know where the water table is. The next thing that comes out of that, once we've identified what we have for soils, material, bedrock, groundwater, now the next thing that comes into play is the best management practices plan. Now that we're aware of it, where the good stuff is and where it isn't, if there are some areas up there that's identified as ledge, up in the upper part of the, I would guess it's probably the more western part of the lot. There may be what's called Chatfield Hollis, which is ledge material. On the eastern side of the property, it appears as though that it's called Paxton soil. Unfortunately, the maps that we have, it identifies the soil, identifies it, but it only identifies the majority of the soil. There may be some anomalies in there, different types of soil that may be representative of only 20%, but 50% or greater than 50% of the soil in a particular area is Paxton material. Paxton material is poorly drained soil. Its water table is at about 2 feet. Poorly drained means that water doesn't migrate through it very quickly. One of the concerns, I guess, when they did some soil borings or well test borings up there in that area certainly, I can tell you based on my experience, it would not support a community water supply of any type whatsoever. It may work for individual houses and producing 5 gallons a minute, but certainly not to support the town's water supply. What would happen, yes, you can drill down, yes, you can get water, but you certainly can't get the flow that the town would need. Not like if you were to the Schofield Ave area, which is all gravel-packed wells. And the gravel-packed wells has a tendency, the water flows very quickly through the soil, versus Paxton material, the water does not. You find that the the gravel-packed wells, the water flows like crazy. We go up and we do perk testing on the soil in Paxton material, and we watch for an hour. It takes an hour or more for the water to go down. That means the soil porosity is not that great. Water doesn't migrate through the soil. It's wet all the time. There's a crust of 2 feet of dry soil on top of a river of mud. And that river of mud is groundwater, wet soils, and all of that. So, like I said, the likelihood of that area being developed into a well field is very remote. What we're trying to do is with the BMP, once we've identified where the water table is, and where the bedrock is. Bedrock also is assumed water table. Wherever we hit bedrock, we assume that that's the water table. It may be a little bit deeper. Bedrock water, by the way, is not the same thing as, which is individual or private wells, is not the same thing as groundwater. Groundwater is it's altogether different. It's easily contaminated, more easily contaminated than a bedrock water supply. But what we're trying to do with the BMP is to try to determine if there's going to be a separation between the remains and the water table, and why we do it. There are certain degradation times for the remains that have to be looked at, and if you put them into the water table, oftentimes it slows the degradation time down. That's where green burials come in. That's where you want to make sure, you try to make sure that there's adequate separation between the water table so that the remains can degrade very quickly. Estimated time from what I read on it is about 7 years is the degradation time. Once you start bringing groundwater into the picture, then degradation times slow down dramatically. The amount of cover that goes over the systems over the remains has an impact as well. If we're doing green burials without concrete vaults, without caskets, as it's the big push today is to promote green burials. What they do is they use wrap swaddling or cardboard boxes or some other type of acceptable, highly biodegradable container. Those are things that we have to look at too. But this all comes to play in best management practices plan. And that's why we have to identify, before anybody can come up with a plan to identify how everything is going to be handled, we have to identify what the actual site affords us. And if it affords them a good site, it's probably not a bad idea. But if it's a poor site, limited space vertically, groundwater interference, ledge, I don't know what else that I could tell you other than we have to see, and the board has to determine whether it's going to be a safe issue or not. The setback requirements, we do septic systems all the time. Don't be alarmed at 100 feet. 100 feet's a normal setback for septic systems. The actual acceptable setback is 50, but the state uses, for new construction, they use a 100-foot setback. I don't really think that that the discharge from a cemetery through a non-groundwater thing is much different than a septic system. So I don't think that 100-foot is unreasonable in a site like, in a case like this. Very simple thing to do. They've already got wetlands, they've got property lines. As long as we identify where the property lines are, 100-foot buffer zone around it is probably not unreasonable to ask for. So you set 100-foot, we identify the property, come in 100 feet and say, okay, can't get any closer to the property lines than that. All the abutters now don't get affected.
I know of
There's
a
an
few
awful-
board, I know
awful-
of a few boards that we've, we've done research that actually disagree greatly with distances, and I'm not going to bore you guys with it because I know you've already heard the World Health Organization at 820 feet separation between wellheads and cemeteries. I know you know all that. But I guess my original question was, are we going to ask them to survey stake that property out, so when we go out there, after they present this plan and they determine whether it's a phase or the whole thing, or there was talk of reducing the 16,000 count to 4,000 and then picking a spot, are they going to survey that? So when we go out there and do this testing, it's right where they were talking about doing it. It's a huge piece of property, massive piece of property. And you walk out there, I've walked out there, and you can lose yourself real fast. I mean, the fields help, but.
So we need a better site plan, obviously.
Right, it starts with that, and then I think we should ask for, I think one of the boards should ask for this to be surveyed by a licensed company, so that we all know where we are.
It's the first item on the agenda.
Right.
Okay.
They
Like
asked
I said, we couldn't
Ask for
hear.
a property survey.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean that every position or meet and bound is going to be staked off
No.
so that it's clearly visible. As people that work out in the field, if we're given 2 or 3 or 4 or half a dozen different points of to start from, like
With a good
an iron
drawing.
pin or a drill hole in a wall or any retaining wall and roadways, we've got a pretty good idea where we are. So that would be the first step, is to identify it. And like I said, unfortunately, when I looked at the plan was a 100-scale plan, and it had no locus map on it. I didn't know exactly where it was. I know where Corbin Road is.
Right.
People told me where the property is, but if it's directly across from Hayden Pond Road, then they didn't show Hayden Pond Road. Now I can eyeball it. I can visualize where the site is and what it looks like. But again, I'm not certain, and until the registered land surveyor stamps that and says that it is there and it is what it is, there's not much we can do. As far as any soil testing and all of that, that's a very easy thing to do. We just make a mark off everywhere that it was tested. There's no guesswork, there's no nothing. When they go in and do the survey, they go in and they set up again. They pull a couple of points off the property lines, and then they can go out to hole number 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 150, 200. I mean, we may be looking at, if they're looking at 30 acres, I'm going to be looking at 100 holes. I want to see 100 holes or thereabouts or whatever it is. I think it's not unreasonable to look at 3 per acre to determine, and to determine, identify the quality of the soil, the water table. What we'll get is, because we do soil morphology, I can do these in August, and I'll be able to tell you where the water table is in February. So we do this all the time with septic system designs, and to determine where the bedrock is. They go in and they do it. We can go in and do topographical surveys to determine where everything is, what the elevations are, and identify all of those areas, and create a big crosshatch of the whole site.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
Cheryl Osowski Dubois. I live on 43 Flaxfield Road. I also own property on 5 Cottage Road, Hayden Pond. And I just wanted to make mention of the fact that this is most importantly, I think, about the water. The the safety of the water. I was just doing a lot of research because I'm looking to rebuild at Hayden Pond, and I came upon this article, and it says, in addition to the immediate area around your well, you should be aware of other possible sources of contamination that may already be a part of your community or may be moving into your area. And then it says attend your local planning boards, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things on here are cemeteries, and they're a key factor when you're putting wells in, and you should be really aware of that. Another article I came across was about burial and being a longstanding method of disposal, which is associated with many pollutants. Historical examples of burials extend as far back as 44,000 years. In many cultures, such as Catholic and Muslim religions, decomposition releases large quantities of nutrients, such as nitrogen and chemicals like mercury. They can negatively affect the environment and cause human health problems, such as cancer. If contaminants reach drinking water sources, microorganisms associated with bodies and decomposition are also found in high concentrations near cemeteries and can cause a variety of health effects like gastrointestinal problems and liver problems, as well as neurological, lymphatic, and endocrinological diseases. It was enough to freak me out completely. Being part of two pond associations where we want the weeds, we want the water clean, we've been told Hayden Pond is one of the cleanest ponds in the state of Massachusetts. Any of these kinds of things that are affected directly by aquifers and moving water, as your health agent said, is something that we need to consider. And I want to just I'm going to be brief because I want to make mention of something that was in the Telegram and Gazette. It had a picture of Charlton, Mass., Charlton and Southbridge, and Flint, Michigan. And it's got 3 glasses of water and the stuff that's going into it. And I want to make mention of that because we could actually be putting Dudley on this particular, very upsetting. We could put Dudley, Mass. On this, and I don't even want to draw you the picture that we would have that would be going into the water supply. So I appreciate your listening, and thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Lynn Sclagian, 129 Corbin Road. I just want to make one comment. When it comes to the 55-acre cemetery, I don't think that's a good thing for Corbin Road, period, regardless of what other people's opinion might be. When it comes to the water table and where it flows, I have no question where it is because I have a nice stream that runs right behind my house that comes all the way down from the pond on the property. And if I may, I would like to just present these to the board. And this here is the map of the town of Dudley that shows the pond on the property. It leads all the way down to the ground.
And could you just indicate on here where this picture is taken, if generally speaking?
Let me just look here. Okay, this is my property right here.
So it's here in your backyard,
Yes,
right?
that's my
right about
backyard, yes.
there? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And
One thing I also want to say is the brook that runs from that pond on the property in question, that is not a seasonal, that's not an intermittent brook, that is a full 4 season out of the year. The pictures I just showed you, I took in the dead of the winter, and you can see the very clear delineation of the brook going through there. When it comes to the springtime, there is so much water that comes down from those properties that it pretty much floods the back area of our yards. It's just not just mine. There are numerous properties that brook goes through. I have a real problem if it's such an abundant amount of water that's coming down, and it's very obviously from that property. Anything that is put into that ground is going to leach into that pond, into that stream, and it's going to go through all our properties and then continue on to feed to Hayden Pond and the others as well. So when it comes to water table, I have no question about where it's coming from. It's in my backyard. Thank you.
thank you. Just so that everyone does understand, we appreciate all your comments, and we take them all in. And it's just that we have to get certain documentation, legal documentation, I know that many people have lived there forever, they have ponds in their backyards. Unfortunately, we can't just go by that alone. The rules require us to have certified documentation of how the flow of the water and everything. That's why we're asking for all of these testings. You know, it's by no means, it's what we have to do to protect and to prove the safe, you know, to have safety and welfare of the town.
We're quantifying all the information you're giving us.
Right. We appreciate it, and by all means, it's just that we can't go by that alone. We have to have legal documentation. So just so that you all understand, so we do appreciate it. Go ahead, I'm sorry, thank you.
Raymond Bilodeau, 149 Corbin Road. You kind of get into what I was going to talk about.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Can I show you this?
Is it the property? Sure.
Yes. This here is property. And where it shows here, this is my property.
Is your house on here? Is that it here? This one?
This is my house.
This one? Okay. I drive by there a lot now, and so
Okay.
I look and see,
There's a
wonder who's in
pond.
what house.
Right here.
Yep.
And I have a picture of it, just so you can see.
Do you want to see?
This is the pond in the back of my house. It's not a good picture, I took it today, but you can see here, this is the water, and that green up there is the property.
That's the property, right? And so that's your backyard.
Right.
and- Right.
Okay.
Okay? And just to show you, outside of this is a picture I took a few years back of a blue heron
Oh, nice.
on the back of that backside of my pond right there. And so my concerns, which I won't go into heavily because you're kind of
I'm sorry.
busting my bubble here.
Are you sure this looks tropical? Like,
That happens to be it. I planted those flowers myself.
I brought that back from Florida.
I know, it's very nice. Okay.
I don't know if you would see this, but anyway, I don't know if you want me to go back there. Okay.
Nope, that's fine, thank you.
This-
Did
I
you
don't want to
see?
get
you see his
into too heavy,
backyard?
but
It's just the pond in the backyard, and this is the proposed area up
I
there.
marked it on the drawing.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I fear for this pond. I really do. As you can see here, the land that's in mention is high, you know? Without getting into too heavy, my well is right over here. The water flows downhill.
Understandable.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to want to drink the water anymore.
You left one piece here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But anyway, to finish,
Thank you very much. Continue.
I worked for the Department of Environmental Management for over 23 years, which is now, DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation. And in that time, I got to see a lot of our land and water unintentionally damaged, One case is a good flowing brook, which is very similar to the one that runs along Hayden Pond Road and goes into Hayden Pond. People called and said that there was a problem, and the brook seemed like it was not flowing well. And when it was investigated, it was found that four-wheelers that were going through the property, going through the land and crossing the brook, running parallel, and then you're going off somewhere, had inadvertently changed part of the flow of the pond. Well, it was easily fixed. If something like that happens down here, I lose my beautiful pond. It's irreplaceable. It cannot be fixed. And that's part of my concern for the moment. And maybe I'll talk more about my love for the animals and fish and everything at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mary Sansucci, I live at 212 Ramshorn Road. I have a question for Mr. Purcell. It was hard for me to hear you with the heat running. As part of your new conditions, are you going to ask them to honor the 3 wells that are on that property? The town drilled a well in 1997, but there's also 2 dug wells up near the barn. And shouldn't there be a setback from these wells?
First of all, as just to reiterate what Mr. Chronopoulos said, if the town had drilled a well up there or a test well of any type, unless there's a legal easement of some type that the town owns or
No, the town, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
if the town has no easement, et cetera, on the property for that well for testing purposes or whatever, or no agreement, there is no, there's nothing that can be done. They can do a proper abandonment. If it's a drilled well into bedrock, there's a proper abandonment procedure for bedrock wells. Mm-hmm. For hand-dug wells or gravel-packed wells, they'll only be hand-dug down into the water table and typically would not go any further than bedrock or a reasonable distance for them. Those can be ordinarily filled. That's just an ordinary backfill for a proper abandonment. As far as, because there's a well there, doesn't mean it has to be kept in perpetuity. Absolutely not. There's no regulation for that.
There is.
If for some reason the society should buy the property, they have the right to properly abandon all of those wells or use them if they choose to. There's nothing we can do to make them.
So there's no setback we could impose from these wells?
Well, there is, depending on what they're going to do, yeah.
Oh.
If they're going to use them. If they're going to use them as a potable water supply, then absolutely we have, the Board of Health at that point has jurisdiction. If it's not going to be used as a potable water supply, if it's going to be used for agricultural purposes only, there's no setback requirement for it.
So they could bury someone 10 feet from the well?
Again, if it's potable water supply, we can protect the well. If it's going to be for agricultural purposes, anything goes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. My real purpose to come up here tonight was to read a letter written by Corbin Road abutters, neighbors, and friends. And this letter was sent to all town boards. The Board of Health got them yesterday. We thought it was time our feelings are heard. We have many more questions at this point than answers, but we want this letter to become public record. And so I'm going to read it, and that way everyone is aware of how we feel. It was addressed to Mr. Balyakonis, the town administrator. We, Corbin Road for Clean Water, are writing to you and all of the boards of the town of Dudley to express our grave concerns about the Islamic Society of Greater Worcester's proposal to site a cemetery on a 55-acre parcel of farmland in Dudley. While a cemetery seems like a compatible open space land use, one that will have 16,000 grave sites on 25 or so acres has real potential to adversely impact area wells and ponds. We see absolutely no public benefit to locating a cemetery in this residential Corbin Road neighborhood. The foremost opposition to this cemetery is water. There are 3 different water issues of concern. The first is surface water. We have all heard endless testimony at the ZBA and BOH meetings about how much surface water flows off of the 55-acre property. The water flows east downhill via 2 ponds and 2 streams. Eventually, the water flows into New Pond, which has a confirmed aquifer. From there, the flow continues to Mud Pond, Tobin/Mosquito Pond, Wallace Pond, and then to Larner, into Marino, ultimately feeding into the well field off of West Main Street, a town water source. Will the Board of Health and Zoning Board of Appeals uphold Mass General Laws, Chapter 114, Section 35, regarding cemetery runoff? How does the runoff fall within compliance of the town's wellhead protection plan or aquifer protection District bylaw. Please see the topography map we have provided. Should a retention pond be a condition to place on the special permit to prevent surface water from flowing into ponds that are used by Dudley residents for recreation? The next type of water issue concern is groundwater. The proposed property has high groundwater in the 25-acre upland burial area. As another condition, deep holes and soil analysis should be dug on every one of the 25 acres to ensure the interments above the mean high water table. President Khalid Sadosi of the ISGW has stated they would bury at a depth of 5 feet. The third type of water concern is well water. The proposed cemetery has brought attention to the fact that the town drilled an exploratory well on the property in 1997, which produced a great volume of water, 150 to 200 gallons per minute. Because of radon, the water commissioners decided not to pursue the development of the well at that time. However, because it is a potential water supply, we feel strongly it should be protected, and it should also be noted that there are several dug wells on the property in the vicinity of the barn. The Dudley Board of Health was given a copy of the World Health Organization report regarding cemeteries and their proximity to wells at their first hearing on this issue. The World Health Organization recommends a setback of a minimum of 820 feet between a well and a cemetery. The Corbin Road for Clean Water Group recommends this setback should apply to the abutters wells on Corbin and Ramshorn Road if they are less than 820 feet away. Our greatest fear is that the 40 or so wells in the immediate area of the proposed cemetery become contaminated. We are all cognizant of the dire water issues the town of Charlton is having regarding 3 different plumes of contamination. Therefore, we are asking the ISGW to post a 100-year bond to protect property value. The ISGW maintained that this would be a 100-year cemetery, but at the March 3rd ZBA meeting, it became a possible 300-year cemetery, which brings to question, which is it? As a matter of course, all of our wells for at least 1 mile away from the proposed site should be tested in order to have a fair baseline in the event that there becomes an issue of contamination in the future. The Corbin Group feels very strongly that the engineers representing ISGW must map all of the wells located on private property that surround the 55 acres on 3 sides, in addition to the wells on the proposed property. We are very much aware that our properties would lose tremendous value if our water is not drinkable. The second general topic of concern is burial practices. The president of ISGW has said the graves will be dug 5 feet and they will use cement vaults. We propose that they be waterproof cement vaults, which presents another issue. How will the town verify that the burial practices are done according to specific conditions imposed on the permit? Will the town of Dudley oversee each funeral, and who will pay for this? Another great concern is disease. What is considered an infectious disease? How are we able to determine if a person died of an infectious disease when the ISGW does not allow an autopsy? In the event of a pandemic, would ISGW be allowed to bury their dead in this cemetery? The ISGW further stated that burials are done as soon as possible after the death. What hours would the cemetery be open for burial? The third topic is the business plan of ISGW. What does the Islamic Society of Greater Worcester stand for? What is their charter and stated purpose? Are they a mosque? The town should be able to review their financial plan and 501c3 designation. A cemetery is a long-term commitment. Into perpetuity would be a better description. In that light, does the ISGW have the necessary finances to maintain a cemetery and perpetual care indefinitely? Once there are burials on the property, any other use of the land is virtually denied. Will the cemetery be paying taxes in Dudley? Will the ISGW be selling plots? If so, does that constitute a business operation? And finally, how many lots are truly proposed? Is 16,000 a realistic number? Is it legal to sell plots in a residential area, and would the sale constitute a business? In the event ISGW abandoned the cemetery, is the town liable for perpetual care in perpetuity? The fourth issue is traffic. Corbin Road is one of the narrowest roads in Dudley. The route to the proposed cemetery from Oxford via Hayden Pond Road or the route via Route 20 and 31 to Dresser Hill Road number 2 are both very narrow with hairpin turns. What are the plans to protect the public by improving those conditions? We, as abutters, fear parking will become an issue. Parking on Corbin Road will make the road impassable. The fifth issue is in regard to perpetual care. This is a legitimate concern because of the poor condition of the Enfield, Connecticut cemetery currently being used by ISGW. Will the grass be cut on a regular basis between May and November? And will the cornfields be seeded in grass to prevent noxious weeds from growing? Will the town be presented with a landscape architect's rendering illustrating what the cemetery will look like? It is very unfortunate that Dudley has been singled out and negatively portrayed by the Telegram and Gazette and NPR. The Islamic Society of Greater Worcester and its sister organizations in both Mass and Connecticut have repeatedly been denied permits in the towns such as Douglas, Walpole, Belchertown in Massachusetts, Canterbury, Lisbon, and Sterling, Connecticut for the same reasons and concerns we have in Dudley: surface, ground, and well water. The aforementioned towns rule to protect the water supply for their citizens by denying cemetery construction, giving all the water issues on parcel 107 Corbin Road. It is our hope the boards in Dudley will comply with the Dudley Master Plan to sustain the health and quality of Dudley's water resources now and for future generations. This was CC'd to Gary Brackett, our town attorney, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health, the ZBA, Planning Board, Water Commissioners, and Conservation Commission. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly, go ahead.
Is this the official reading of this, or will you be bringing it to the Selectmen meeting, the ZBA meeting, and any other meeting, or shall we consider this for all committees at this point?
Everyone on every committee has a copy,
Thank you.
along with a token map.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathy Hurst, and I live on 15 Camelot Circle, and have been a resident of Dudley for going on 20 years. We'll have packets for you, and that will back up all the information that I'm going to read to you. It all comes from scientific research and literature. Information is from the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, Mass General Laws, CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the World Health Organization, and others. You've already done a great job of doing an overview of groundwater and such. As we know, the town of Dudley is rich with ponds, streams, waterways, wetlands, and wells. And I'm going to skip over one part that I was going to say because I think that you've talked about a lot of the groundwater issues. I'll start with the USGS on aquifers and groundwater. If the ground is permeable enough to hold water below a certain depth, it's considered to be saturated with water. The upper surface of the zone is the water table. Below that is groundwater, and that is one of our most valuable resources. When water readily transmits to wells and springs, it is an aquifer. Then people can drill wells into it and withdraw water. Water moves toward lower-lying areas and eventually discharged from aquifers, from springs, seeps into streams, or is withdrawn from the ground by wells. The question is groundwater near cemeteries. That is a concern. Hydrogeology experts recognize the risk of what leaches out from burial sites. and if groundwater is near to the surface, that can cause problems. Contaminants can leach into the groundwater and migrate to the drinking water supply. As you heard already, the World Health Organization states that cemeteries can't be built within areas most sensitive to groundwater, and that they should be at least 850 feet away from any water supply, well, or stream. And groundwater should not be closer than 2.8 meters, or a little over 9.5 feet, below the surface of the ground. According to published literature from the Agency of Health and Human Services, it is stated that there has been evidence of microbiological contamination in the vicinity of cemeteries. Cemeteries can be regarded as a special kind of landfill, in that a limited range of matter is covered by soil fill. Therefore, it is useful to examine the fate of leachate from cemeteries, whether it is biological, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, or radioactive materials from a cancer patient, or hazardous waste presence, even in batteries of a pacemaker. These will leach into groundwater and migrate to drinking water supply. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has issued guidance on importation of human remains into the U.S. for internment. They say it must be shipped in a sealed container, stating that blood and bodily fluids can cause a risk to human health, no matter what the cause of death. The CDC continues to say, germs that can cause disease could be present in the blood and other body fluids of a deceased person, even if the stated cause of death is not a contagious disease. Such germs include the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and other germs that can be present in bodily fluids. This guidance is based on medical standard precautions to prevent exposure to infections carried in the blood and other body fluids. Recent reports have shown some startling evidence. According to Funeral Consumers Alliance, the HIV virus has been shown to live up to 16 days in a corpse. The International News Agency posted in 2014 that burial practices were contributing to major crises plaguing the globe, the spread of Ebola, and that there is some evidence of microbiological contamination in the immediate vicinity of cemeteries. According to Evidence Technology, they have discovered that TB, tuberculosis, can survive within a corpse up to 36 days after death. So what about groundwater contamination? Well, it wouldn't be wise to bury bodies near a stream or water table. You must consider the survival of bacteria and viruses and transport pattern to groundwater. In order to develop adequate guidelines and assess the potential public health risks for the placement of cemeteries, you also must consider the fate of pathogenic microorganisms in soils and groundwater. Bacteria and viruses are retained by soil particles. Most viruses are absorbed into the soil, and some, such as polioviruses, are held near the soil surface. Climate controls two factors in determining viral and bacterial survival, that is, temperature and rainfall. Survival at low temperatures can be months, even years. Low temperatures, as the ones we experience here in the Northeast. Rainfall mobilizes retained bacteria and viruses and greatly promotes their transport to groundwater. Several studies have shown how the greatest degree of well water contamination occurs after periods of heavy rainfall. Soil properties also influence survival of bacteria and viruses. Moisture holding capacity, pH factor, organic matter all play a role. Studies concluded that the survival of viruses is prolonged in moist soils. Once a virus has entered the groundwater, they can remain infective for long periods of time and have the potential for spreading over long distances. Since these microorganisms are known to be associated with waterborne disease, their survival in a corpse and subsequent transport in the subsurface may represent a serious health risk to public health. Here are some types of organisms in the general tissue of human corpses, including human intestine and feces, blood, and body fluids. The list includes, but is not limited to, the following. A complete list will be in your packet. These pathogens include bacteria such as Enterobacteria, E. coli, Streptococcus, Lactobacillus, Staphylococcus, Bacillus, Salmonella, Listeria, viruses such as enteroviruses, poliovirus, Coxsackie viruses, virus A and B, echoviruses, hepatitis A, hepatitis C, adenovirus, reovirus, rotavirus, and protozoas such as Cryptosporidium, Giardia, and Toxoplasma. The complete list, the ones I couldn't pronounce, are in the packet. In summary, as in our Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 114, Section 35 states, no land shall be used for the purpose of burial if it is so situated that surface water or ground drainage therefrom may enter any stream, pond, reservoir, well, filter gallery, or other water used as a source of public water supply, or any tributary of a source or any aqueduct. It would be a conclusion that a cemetery should not be located in any area where rainwater comes into contact with interred remains. This would ultimately permit more decomposition products, bacteria, viruses, and other contaminants into our groundwater. We seem to be in the limelight here in Dudley, but we are not alone. A multitude of these huge cemeteries are being proposed across our nation, from Massachusetts to Texas, Nevada to New York. It is not only in Douglas, Dudley, Walpole, Belchertown, or Canterbury, Connecticut, but we all share at least one concern: to protect the water supply, to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the general community by ensuring a safe, quality, and quantity of drinking water for all residents, institutions, and businesses in their towns. Recently, the town of Walpole was stated in a newspaper. The BOH cited concerns about the potential for water contamination. They denied the project because they could not be 100% sure that it wouldn't happen. So rather than worry about political correctness, our concern must be to preserve our community waters, to ensure the quality of the water, and to protect the health and safety and welfare of the town of Dudley, and to do what is 100% right for its citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not my talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What do you need?
Hi, I'm Shelby Karachik, 186 Ramshorn Road. Sorry. Shelby Karachik, 186 Ramshorn Road. I just kind of am up here, I'm going to be quick, just to put it on record, make it be known that our property is kind of uphill from the proposed lot, and our property has an easement on it for drainage for the Ramshorn Road. There's a catch basin across the street from our driveway, which goes under our driveway and empties out into our yard. And from, well, now until about June, depending on how rainy the spring is, our entire side yard and the backyard that empties down into this property will be wet to the point that when you walk out there, the water goes over the top of your feet. And then again, after the summer, when we start having rain again in like September until about November, it stays wet again, and all of this water drains down into that property. So I just kind of want to put that on record.
Thank you. And you said you were on Ramshorn Road?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jeremy Dobney, 168 Corbin Road, and I live across the street from the proposed site. One of my main concerns is they keep talking about going in sections and that they want to do part of the project at a time. And my problem is that if one spot of this area is deemed okay, but then they want to decide to go further in, and then they hit ledge, and then they want to start dynamiting and disturbing the soil and the plots that are already there, making it unsafe for everybody. And I mean, I don't need to tell you guys that everybody in this town just really doesn't want this to happen. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I just have one point I want to make.
Excuse me, could you just tell us who you are? I bet everybody in here knows you, but I don't.
Okay, sorry, Al Reich.
Al, where are you from?
I live on Bates Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, I didn't attend it. I gave my son the information, and he came and he read a case to the, I guess it was the Board of Selectmen, that whole crew was there. It had to do, I'll repeat the case for you. It says, no land should be used for burial purposes without express permission from a town meeting. Do you remember that? Anybody remember that? And there was a big article in the paper, the Webster Times. It took up a whole page. And the writer never mentioned what my son said. And I'm wondering why she didn't want to put the most important part of that meeting was that information. It wasn't put in the paper. So I began to wonder why. Did someone ask her not to do it? Not you people, but there was other people there. There was a reason that the guy didn't do it. Okay, let me tell you something else. There's another case where there was an injunction. It had to do with a vote of the town meeting. And the town was in Canton, Mass. What happened was the selectmen, with all their wisdom in Canton, issued a permit and allowed someone to construct a cemetery. The townspeople, obviously the townspeople in Canton, were smart like these people here, especially that lady there. She knew what she was doing. The townspeople in Canton looked it up, and they got an injunction. And the court said, statute regulating location of cemetery is enforceable by injunction at suit of town. Inhabitants, town of Canton, they prevented the cemetery from being constructed. And there's a few more in here, but I don't want to, it's getting late, and I don't want to tie up the people who want to get home and find out if Donald Trump won or not. And I hope he did. One other article that I think you should, they keep mentioning the Dover Amendment, you know? And I don't know if that lawyer, you know, I worked in the court for 35 years. One thing I learned working in the court and having lunches with judges, they all say the same thing: don't believe a lawyer. You know? The statutory prohibition against local zoning bylaw regulating or restricting the use of land or structures for religious purposes does not exempt religious use from lawful wetland control under local bylaws. In other words, all the things that the Dover Amendment allows people to do, the Dover Amendment does not allow anyone to put anything on wetlands.
That's why I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that we don't have to discuss the Dover Act, because it doesn't
The
refer
Dover-
to health and safety of the town.
Right, the Dover Amendment only applies to the zoning bylaws.
Right, but this is an exemption. This was a court order saying that, in other words, these people that want to build a cemetery can't use the Dover Amendment because it's been thrown out.
They're only using it as far as the ZBA is
Right.
concerned,
The
not here in our meetings. They're not
Well,
using
no, it's the
that.
town. I mean, they're trying to do it through the town. But anyway, my reason for coming is I don't understand why everything's going on here for 2 hours and no one has mentioned that it has to go in front of a town meeting. My request is this: you're elected officials. You can ask the selectmen or tell the selectmen to be sure to put this on the next town meeting. Why not? Let the whole town vote on it. What's so hard about that? Right or wrong?
I can tell you that our town council is handling what legally we can do and can't do, and they're advising our board. I know that he's
Well,
advising the
suggest it to
ZBA.
town council then.
He has been at every meeting. He is not here this evening.
I know he was here. I know Gary Brackett. He's a friend of mine. And my son gave him that copy of that law because maybe Gary overlooked it. One other thing you should do. Is everyone aware of the fact that we don't have a cemetery commission? Any way you read, if you read 114 or anything else, it mentions cemetery commissions. We don't have one. The selectmen about 5 years ago, I wasn't on the board at the time, I got beat, did away with the cemetery commission. Okay? Now, this lady pointed out something, one of the ladies that was talking. If the cemetery came about and you had rules and regulations for the burial, this nice lady said, who's going to be there to observe it, to see to it that they're following what's on the permit? Now, 3 of the selectmen work full-time, so they're not going to do it because they got to work full-time. 2 of the selectmen are retired. Maybe they'll do it, but I doubt it, because I know them both. So how are you going to... We need a cemetery commission. We need somebody there. They were working for nothing, but yet they got rid of it. Maybe there's people in here, maybe you know Elaine Jean. Elaine Jean was on the cemetery commission. I called her up the other day, and I asked her, and she did a good job. She used to go to every burial. Didn't get paid, but she went. I asked her, I says, Elaine, has anybody ever called you and contacted you and asked you for any advice concerning burials? She says, no, I never got a call. So we need a cemetery commission. The selectmen shouldn't be doing it because there's no pay for it. Why take the power away from that board? That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I do appreciate everyone this evening. We appreciate your comments and everything. Real quick, because we still have like 4 agenda items after this.
I
still.
just have 3 additional papers about the 250 meters
Sure.
buffer.
Do you promise to sit through the next 4 items on our agenda?
I'll be real quick. And the other thing is, on that well that's on the property, it has supposedly 200 gallons a minute, and we believe that it's tapped into a big underground aquifer. We want to make sure if there's anything that happens that the DEP or somebody knows about that underground aquifer. That is a valuable resource. According to one other person I said, he says that goes all the way down to Healy Road. So you have to be careful what goes into that. You could have pollution all the way up and down that aquifer.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for coming and for all the information. We do take everything that you give us. We appreciate it. We do have certain rules that we have to follow. That's why we can't just take your information at face value. We have to do the testing and the research to back everything up. That's why we are requesting certain items from them for this process. Our interest is the health and safety of the town. You know, we are going through it piece by piece, and it is a first time for us. That's why we contact our town council. We have a health agent who's familiar with many things, so it is a work in progress. We are going through it slowly to try to get all the information and gather as much information as we can. Okay.
Let's make a motion to end continue the.
You have to end the mic.
I'm sorry.
Make a motion.
Continue what?
Public hearing.
I make a motion to continue our public hearing till next month.
30 seconds.
Yep.
I heard twice now that you're following the rules, okay? And I certainly understand that, and you have to do that. But you got to keep in mind, a lot of the information that's brought forth to you tonight by a lot of intelligent people here that have done a lot of research on their own, okay, is new information that wasn't really around when the present rules were made. Okay, so you're working off rules that may be antiquated based on information that was given then that developed the rule.
We do
So
understand.
we do appreciate the fact that you're following the rules, but I think you have some broad area that you can.
But I can't take it at face value that there's an aquifer there. I don't have.
No, we
legal-
appreciate that, but without the public hearing, you wouldn't know about this stuff.
Excuse me. I have let you speak many times this evening. I'm just trying to say what we have to follow, okay? I can't just take at face value that you have a pond in your backyard and that it comes down from there. We have to have documentation. In order to provide that, yes, there is groundwater, we have to have documentation for that. All your information is great, and it helps us to educate ourselves and go in the right direction, but we can't just take that at face value.
So
Jay.
independent quantification of the information you're giving us will be required.
Okay.
And we thank you for the information.
And I think that's all I'm trying to identify is the information that's brought forth in a public hearing does have to be verified, and we understand that. But without the public hearing, you may not be looking at everything that's being brought up because you don't have that information. So the mere fact that the public hearing is giving you that is giving you the opportunity to get it verified.
I do believe that Jennifer thanked you for all of your information and your time.
And we thank you for yours,
We appreciate you being here. And as you know, we are free help.
You guys are doing okay.
I make a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
continue.
Continue the public hearing
Until
April 19th at 6:30.
Second.
I have a motion to continue the public hearing till April 19th at 6:30 PM, and I have a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. We will take a 3-minute recess so the room can clear so we can continue our meeting. Oh, sorry. And the time is 8:51.
Seriously. Come on.
Continued.
Thank you. Let me know when I'm ready. All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order at 8:56. If we're going to continue on, number 5 on our agenda is inspections of nail salons.
Do we have any nail salons?
We have many nail salons in the town of
Fantastic.
Dudley. And we brought it up. Excuse me for one moment.
Let me see if I can clear the
Yeah, if you could just bear with us one moment. I'll talk a little bit about nail salons. So it was brought up recently regarding
If I read people, I'm going to close the doors.
about nail salons. There's been a lot of publicity on TV regarding the safety and cleanliness of nail salons, and some of the boards of health in the surrounding towns. I think we all have a copy of some regulations. Some of the boards of health are starting to mandate nail salons. That's a good word, mandate. Control, inspect,
Regulate.
regulate. That's the word I was looking for. I'm tired, sorry.
Yeah, some of the indications, some of your concerns, actually a lot of your concerns are well-founded. There's minimal to poor inspection, from what I understand, with nail salons and some of the cosmetics. The frequency of inspections is not any good as, or not as good as it could be or should be. The disease reporting system and complaint system is not up to snuff. And it appears as though that the 3 or 4 or half a dozen inspectors that there are statewide are not able to, there's such a vast multitude of these facilities that they possibly can't keep up. It may be time for the local boards of health. Some towns have already recognized to step up and start to regulate them from a town level or local level instead of just a statewide level. Under Mass General laws and under the CMRs or the Code of Massachusetts Regulations, they're controlled and regulated typically by the State Board of Cosmetology. But pursuant to Mass General Laws 111, Section 131, Chapter 111, 131, Sections 5, et cetera, that allows the local boards of health to write and create regulation as strict or more stricter than the state requirements. You just can't go any softer than the state regulations. What I did was I took 3 communities offline today, or yesterday, for your perusal. And you can see that if you compare the notes, everybody's using the same boilerplate. It's a pretty standard format to do. One of the things that I'm not sure that it's clearly addressed in there, but I'd like to see added to something like that would be a reporting system. Every time you have a MRSA case, or every time you have a fungal infection, or there's a complaint of any type like that of a disease or an infection or an injury, reportable injury, it should be reported to the Board of Health so that further investigation can go on to make sure that it's not just swept away and people are not following some type of aseptic procedure of some type or a clean procedure. You'll find in those regulations that they do require some aseptic technique, some proper cleaning and storage of instruments, et cetera, contact with patients. It isn't necessarily just protection of the workers. A lot of the rules are written for the protection of the workers, for hazardous material, vapors, and all of that. That is part of it. A lot of the complaints, or some of the complaints, come through inhalation exposure or odors that are associated with nail salons. The Department of Public Health has issued a publication on how to handle odor complaints. Unfortunately, a lot of the odors you can smell are still below the
Allowable limit.
VOC, the volatile limits, thresholds.
So it's a measurement,
PLVs
not a smell.
Right. It's a measurement, it's an actual measurement.
Particle count.
Odor you can smell at a very dilute area, but length of exposure and the concentration of the odor, the TLVs and the PERs, they call them, the exposure rates and all of that are a whole different ballgame. There's supposed to be proper ventilation systems. A lot of places, even though they may have just small containers of nail polish or nail, but they may have larger containers of solvents, adhesives, etc., where MSDS information is supposed to be provided. You want to see maybe some airflow setups, either hoods or a vented area, or do you have to go to positive pressure rooms? Do you have to, or negative pressure rooms, or whatever? I mean, are these the things that we have to start looking at sometime in the future? But the biggest thing we're concerned right now is using clean and aseptic procedures and using clean instruments on people to prevent disease, all for disease control. I think that's the tantamount thing that Board of Health should be looking at. It's not unusual to do this. It can be done very easily. We'd have to go through adopting regulations. You obviously set up an inspection procedure. Fees, you can make it mandatory that people have to register, and they do have to, even after the fact, provide you floor plans, ventilation systems, and it meets some minimum standards that have to be done, or increase the standards. They have to have autoclaves, they have to sterilize, be able to sterilize equipment, or have the capability of doing it. They have to be able to sanitize, etc. Storage of equipment.
Would stuff like that put a nail salon out of business?
Not really. It would get them to be better, I believe.
Is there an expense? It just sounds like there could be huge expense in ventilation, stuff like that.
Well, ventilation systems, I might say that we probably rely more on what's available for air quality and hazardous materials handling and all of that. I don't really believe that we have a big issue. I don't know that we've ever received any complaints about odors.
They may all have this already in place, and the regulation is good anyhow. I'm just stating we don't want to put our small business out.
And I think one of the biggest things is the sterilization, sanitation of the items that they're using on you and not reusing them, and cleanliness. And
the other thing it does is you'll be looking at from a local level is to be able to go in and inspect and enforce and make sure that you're getting your information and reporting in a timely fashion.
Where we're currently not able to because...
Currently, we're not able to do that because it's not in our purview to do that. We'd have to create a regulation that allows us to go in and do that.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Okay. Yes.
Excuse me, this is a question that's coming almost entirely from ignorance.
No, that's okay.
My name is Richard Clark, Airport Road. What is the difference between a nail salon and a manicurist? It seems that the manicurist has been something that's been around for a longer period of time.
That's a great question, because I was just thinking it myself. I'm like, somebody...
The regulations apply equally in that they're performing some of the same function, and if so, how do we go about including them?
A nail salon is the facility itself.
Yes.
It can only be operated by a duly licensed individual. In a case like, if it's just a nail salon, they have to be a type 3 manicurist that's registered with the Department of Public Health or the Board of Cosmetology. The Board of Cosmetology handles cosmetologists, it handles manicurists, and it handles estheticians. Say that 3 times. Estheticians are people...
About 1.5 as far as I would get, I think.
that do depilatory hair and skin and all of that. Manicurist is restricted, and there are educational requirements. A manicurist has to have a minimum of 100 hours of training and successfully complete a 100-hour course for manicure.
Those educational requirements do not apply in the case of a nail salon?
Yes, they do.
They do.
A nail salon, the only people that can work on nails in a nail salon is a type 3 manicurist. They have to hold a state license for that.
So a manicurist and a nail salon, it's in some sense one and the same?
They are the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The manicurist can work in a beauty parlor.
Right.
As an adjunctive type of a service to, like a day spa or a hairdresser that does that, or waxing, or...
So I guess the question would be, should we review this between now and the next meeting and see if we want to put together our own?
See if we want to get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be advisable.
If this is the format, it appears as though this is kind of the format that you want to take a look at. You're more interested in making sure that you have the ability to get in and do the inspection.
It's part of continuous improvement. I think what I feel like when we're doing things like this, it's us talking to each other and we're all nodding our heads. And instead of opening maybe a public hearing, I'd invite. I guess you have to do a public hearing then. I'd invite a couple of the owners.
In order to create the regulation, you do have to go to a public hearing.
Okay.
Yes.
These are things, first of all, you're going to discuss and probably recommend that the next time we go, or the next time the Board of Health meets, that you want to pursue it further. Probably open up an open invitation I would suggest you do an open invitation, just like you said, to all of the practitioners that are out there. If they have any input in here, that's fine.
I have had a couple contact and say they would be more than happy to work on this and give advice and think it's a wonderful thing.
Right.
That'd be great.
Right.
So we'll review it for the next meeting and come with some more ideas and everything.
Sure.
The good ones aren't afraid of it but they're, and they're happy to, and they welcome it because there's, if there's a bad one out there, they want to make sure that the bad one steps up to their standards. They have to meet the same standards, and that's all they're concerned about. They're not trying to put anybody out or competition or any of that. All they want to do is make sure that everybody does a good job.
Would we be adding a public hearing to the next meeting?
No, I would say we'd be reviewing this and reviewing these guidelines, each of us having our own little tweaks to them, and then saying we want to bring this forward at a public hearing for the next.
Right. Or you may end up editing it or opening it to another public comment period, an educational period by inviting the people in to comment on it before you make your final decision on how to proceed. I think that
sounds good.
Okay? It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen the next meeting.
No.
This should be something that takes a little bit of time.
Okay.
Similar to our tattoo.
Right, the tattoo
guidelines.
Okay, up next is Earth Day. We're still trying to work with the town of Webster. Usually the Webster Dudley Business Alliance coincides Earth Day. We try to coincide with Webster. We're still working on that. Teresa's been trying to get in touch and get some dates, and we're not getting anything. And it is going to become a little conflicting because we do have the drill on April 23rd, but that takes precedence right now. So more information to follow on Earth Day. Next up is we are having a rabies clinic on Saturday, March 26th. It is in the lobby of the town hall from 10 to 1:30. It is $10 for cats or dogs. Cats must be in a carrier and dogs must be on a leash, and it is $10 cash. So do bring that with you.
How long is it good for?
It depends. I don't know if you have documentation.
It's a one-year permit, a one-year vaccination expiration. If you bring it in if you bring the animal in for the second time before the first one expires, I guess the next one is a 3-year. There's a 3-year permit after that. That's how that works.
So you have
as
to
long
have
as
the
you stay up,
documentation.
and stay ahead of the curve.
So say it doesn't, the current one doesn't expire for a month. If you bring the pet in and have a new rabies vaccination done,
They'll give you
it's
a
for
3-year
3 years?
expiration.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we know who's working that?
No, we don't know who's working that because our temporary clerk cannot be there. And it is a Saturday from 10 to 1:30.
What's the date on
The 26th. I can come for a bit.
it? I can be available for it.
Yeah.
I'll look at my schedule and see if I can get here.
Yeah.
I'm going to at least bring my dog.
I'd like to get my dog
What
too,
the-
so we'll-
What the practitioner will do is the practitioner will give us a list of all the animals were provided. They have to provide certification to the owner, the animal owner, so that it can be turned into the town clerk for registration for their license and vaccination, et cetera.
So,
Vaccination certificate.
so it should be good. It usually goes very well. Again, it is cash only. They only take cash. Okay. Up next is Joshua Bousquet regarding the Brew Farm event.
You've been really patient.
Thank you. You just caught us on one of those nights.
It's a really big meeting. I had no idea about the cemetery. I guess I can understand people's concerns there. My family owns a small piece of land. Well, it's 68 acres over between the Kepke Farm and the Charlton line. Last year we had a pretty large family reunion, a couple hundred people. We hired our own private security, porta potties, had a small stage, generator, music. There was no problems until we went a little late, but otherwise, we're thinking this year we kind of want to have something that, families can bring their kids to, face painting, maybe a little kids parade, community bonfire. Last year we did, a friend of mine does yoga, so she did a little yoga instruction thing. Possibly like a hayride or something. I mean, maybe a mini micro version of like a Spencer Fair type of thing. I'm newly paralyzed as of November of 2015, so I was running the farm for a while before that, and of course now I'm finding myself with a lot of difficulties there. So, maybe hoping to raise a little bit of money to help make the farm a little more handicap accessible, and that's kind of where we're at. I'm just not sure how to go about it. What sort of permits I might be looking at, and how the town might welcome something like that.
Tom, I'm gonna defer to Tom.
Based on the information that Mr. Bousquet provided in his letter, it appears as though, first of all, it's a personal fundraising event for his own personal gain, which it's a business. It would then be considered a business venture, and in order to do that, you need a permit from the Board of Selectmen to conduct such a program. Second of all, if they're going to bring in vendors, each of the vendors does have to have a license permitted by the Dudley Board of Health and duly inspected, et cetera, et cetera. I guess one of the other things that
I mean to interrupt you, but when I say vendors, I mean like local businesses would be set up to sell their goods, type of thing like that. I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear.
vendors.
I just want to be clear on what it is.
When you're bringing in face painters and you're bringing in any instructors or any of that, or if there's people that are going to be selling food or food products, beverages, et cetera, each of them has to have any proper permits that are required by either the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Health. If there's going to be anybody selling beverages or any of that stuff there, beer or?
No, we don't plan on doing anything with alcohol.
Okay,
Just
no, it's a non-alcohol?
For safety reasons and
Okay.
just for.
The other thing, I'm sure that both fire and police would be interested in knowing what's going on.
Of course. What would be the process to go about,
Well, I would take a ride up to, or give a call into the fire chief up on West Main Street.
Okay.
And I'd also notify the police chief here. I'd recommend that you notify the police chief.
Sure.
See, one of the other things that you're doing is you're looking into a public gathering of more than, and it's a public gathering.
Sure.
It's not like it's a wedding or it's a private
Right.
private event. So you're looking at a public gathering of some 300 to 500 people you were talking about?
So
Which, that raises a lot of flags. That raises a lot of flags with personal safety, it has public safety, it has the Board of Selectmen for any permits, entertainment permits or anything like that they're going to need. If you're going to have any food or any of that, we have to worry about public safety, public health to go along with that. We want to make sure that anybody that's eating or drinking anything there is properly protected.
Porta potties?
Sanitary facilities.
So if you go to a park and you have a picnic, how do you make sure these people that are having a picnic
is 20, 30 people, maybe at the most.
And it's private.
No, or 10 people. It's a private event, and then you can only work within the parameters of what in a park, what the park's regulations are. So in a case like this, if you're going to have something out at Memorial Beach, we do it at Memorial Beach. We used to do it there in Webster, was 4th of July celebrations. If anybody, or the triathlon, or any of that. Well, there were vendors, there were public people, there were people. All of public service had to be notified, public safety. They were selling food, there was traffic control.
Right. So last year we hired a private security, which one of the members of the security was actually a registered EMT. And so we sort of had some experienced people that had done parking at other events that helped, sort of organize the cars and make sure there was nobody backing up on any of the roadways. We did have porta potties, but, we didn't really have, A, an idea of how many people we were going to have, and B, sure there's some sort of how many people you have to have X amount of porta potties for that amount of people.
We're talking about, first of all, I think you're a little premature coming to the Board of Health looking for a permit or permission to run such an event.
Well, when I called, that was what I was told to do first, so.
Who told you that?
I actually spoke with you on the phone.
Yeah,
I was told to send an email, and when I sent the email in with what I wanted to do.
Well, based on the information that you're presenting, I would suggest to the board that, as far as food vendors and all of that, that would be our purview. And some of the public health matters like sanitary facilities and all of that. But as far as a public gathering and all, that would be more of a selectman's matter and a public safety matter as well. And in order, and I would not suggest that we issue permits, or the board issue permits for part of an event that may or may not be approved by another agency. As far as issuing food vendors permits and all that, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
People come in, they fill out an application, they get a temporary permit, or they get a permanent permit, and they're going to assign a site, and I do an inspection. But you're talking about an assemblance of a bunch of people on a piece of property for an event like this and open to the public. That becomes a public gathering, and that's under the purview of the Board of Selectmen and and public safety officers as well, fire and police.
Can I ask, what is your address?
I'm not a resident of Dudley anymore, unfortunately. The address of this particular property is 31 on Route 31. Not sure the formal street name of Route 31, but it's just
Dresser Hill. It's Dresser Hill
31
Road.
Dresser Hill Road would be the...
Route 31 Dresser Hill Road.
Across from 30.
It's across from 30, out in the field, in the middle and the back.
Oh, you know where it is?
I do.
No, not really.
I have
Because it's not identified in the letter, it's not...
Right.
No, but now
But now you know.
Now we know.
Oh, okay.
I have an idea.
So the property owner needs to go for the permit.
Are you the property owner?
The property manager.
Are you the property owner? Who's the property owner?
Marlene Peeler. Marlene Peeler.
Marlene Peeler?
Correct.
So you have to get a permit first for the event, then the food vendors all know what to do an event like that. I imagine the
They're gonna want
sanitation,
a site,
the
they're
porta
gonna want
potty.
a, they're gonna want a site plan, they're gonna want, they're gonna wanna know where the parking's gonna be, where.
Right, so they're going to want to see this
Where
and
the
review
porta
it.
potty's gotta be anticipated, making sure we have a proper number. Right now, we have such a wide disparity. I mean, the porta potty people can tell us how many we should have per.
When did you want to
Per
do
100
this?
people.
How far out are you looking?
Yeah, I mean, last year we did it in the second week of October. So there's some time.
So
but,
you have time to
obviously-
get it done.
Obviously, there's a fair amount of planning that goes into this as well, so I want to make sure I'm
Right.
prepared as possible. But, that was the idea of calling and sort of initiating communication behind the whole thing anyways, because I really had no idea what I was
Absolutely.
walking
Yeah,
into,
sure.
who to talk to, because, searching for it online, I mean, there's nothing about event permits or entertainment permits or anything. The only thing I was able to find is porta potty permits, which is, that was pretty obvious to me. I mean, I know obviously that we have to provide all of the infrastructure to be able to have 300 to 500 people and have them safely there, whatever that may mean, safety or, sanitation and all that kind of stuff. The food vendor that we had last year had a little certification thing that, he's a truck that's contained and able to provide food. He had his own water and his own, it was just something they have.
So you did this last year without the
Well,
permit.
But
it was, you didn't know how large it was going to be.
Well, we did a family reunion. It was a family
event, right.
reunion, and then it kind of was like, hey, maybe we could kind of make this into something bigger. The landowner was super happy with the way everything went. I know a lot of people that set up large events like this, and they sort of are just familiar with the way things go. And that's kind of the reason why it was so successful is because we were able to organize it, and we had the porta potties, and knew where we were going to have for entrance and exit and parking and all that stuff.
So you have a good plan of how you would want to implement it. You just have to go to the Board of Selectmen first.
And
Get that all down, a little bit more formal method, go to the Board of Selectmen, they'll walk you through that process for that permitting, and then.
When is the?
You step right over me. I'm trying to talk.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We can forward our email on to the Board of Selectmen, but they're also going to need the actual landowner permission from them.
Sure.
Most likely, they're going to want her there or something. But we can forward this information to the Board of Selectmen and check with, they meet every 2 weeks. They just met Monday, so they'll meet in 2 weeks from yesterday.
Is it yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh,
So they'll meet in 2 weeks.
Knowing that would have been my first step, because I definitely would have went
But
to that yesterday.
you can definitely contact their office
contact.
before that, so to start the conversation.
Most definitely,
You know,
but
to-
we'll send the information. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I was talking.
I'm sorry. Go,
After 7 hours, I kind of snuck one in. If you kind of lay out your plan, they can probably give you the prep work that they need to go into the meeting and get an approval. That way, maybe in 2 weeks, you're better, not saying in 2 weeks it's ready, but
Right.
you'll be much more far along if you contact them now, see if you can get the information from them, and then the next time you're in.
Basically, right, you just ask them what they were looking for information.
Instead of going in cold and then having
For
them
a
do all
public
that work
gathering.
after.
Right.
Do you know if there is a, like X amount of people per amount of porta potties? Is there a number for that?
I think the porta potty people could tell us
Yeah,
better.
they would certainly know that.
They would give us a better idea through experience.
Might not have-
Not that they would want one porta potty for every person there, they wouldn't.
We might not have a regulation, we can look that up.
I know
Can we check that?
the Dudley Lions Club, for probably 300 or 400 people at their car show, they have 3. So judging by that, you need 3.
I had like 8 last year,
Well-
6 or 8 last year.
That's good. Better to be overprotected.
There was never a line at the John.
Yeah.
Nobody was
I think I want more than 3, but yeah, that's a good idea.
And this is what happens at 9:30 when the Board of Health meeting is still going on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Not
basically.
that, and if I may, I didn't mean to sound like I was steering you wrong about bringing you here. I just thought it would be important, instead of my making a decision at
Absolutely.
my level, I'm answerable to the board, and I think that the
No,
board,
I totally
the board
understand.
should have heard the whole thing. and see what the plan is, or what the proposal is to make the decision.
Sure.
That's all.
And we'd appreciate it if you keep us informed along the way, just so that we know, I'm sure we'll hear from the Board of Selectmen as well, but if you can just keep us informed as to how you're going, so we'll know,
Sure.
when you'll need those porta potties, if so, and
Inspections for your
food permits,
vendors,
and
et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
by all means.
Yeah, after my accident, I wasn't sure which way things were going to go, so it was kind of like, some people pushed me like, you need to still continue doing what you're doing and, pursue your dreams and actually still live life.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time, and I guess I
thank
know
you.
what to do from here.
Thank you
Thanks.
for waiting.
Thank you.
Good luck. We'll hopefully see you back here for
Vote no
more.
on cemetery, that's what I say.
Okay. Now, under old business. Do we have anything under old business? Do you have anything under old business?
No.
Do you have anything under old
I
business?
have nothing.
Anything under old business? And I didn't even put the health agent on here. I'm
back.
so sorry.
I'm back,
Is there
that's
a
old
health agent
business.
report?
No, I'm so sorry. We'll do that under new business. Yes, you're back.
Yeah,
Welcome
I'm
back.
Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
nice to have you back.
I hope Julie took care of things
Julie was wonderful.
as usual. She does a great job.
She was very good. She was here when we needed her. She was very, very good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. And under new business, since I omitted a health agent report on the agenda, I apologize.
It's not a problem. As I said, I'm back. What we've done is we've managed to get everything under control, keep it all clean. Permits are out. We straightened out a couple of hanging problems that were nagging some of the process. Many of the housing issues that we're receiving we actually had very few housing issues this past winter. We do have a couple of outstanding ones that are being taken care of, or they're in process, that other agencies have been involved in or initiated, but we've got the landlords under orders to take care of certain things. I think there may still be one nagging one there with Fairview Ave.
I believe so.
Is one that I'm.
So I
gonna
spoke
have
with
to-
her the other day, and I think we need
Yeah,
to
okay,
do
we may
more.
need to do a little bit more
Yeah,
probing
it
or
was just-
prodding on that.
It was just cleaned and painted, and that wasn't the appropriate method.
Yeah, well, if it was properly cleaned and painted, but if it becomes a perpetual problem, then he needs a little more, maybe some excavating or some dewatering of the site, but
Yeah, that's what I
we'll do a follow-up on that to make sure. We've created a follow-up file now with a few issues that need to be followed up on.
Very efficient, very efficient.
Teresa is doing a great job.
I will mention under new business that we have a temporary clerk right now. Teresa Woodford, she's been filling in since February 26th or so, and she's jumped right in and
Previous clerks were doing a great job as well. Teresa brings a lot more experience than most to the job, and it shows. It very definitely shows. So.
do you have anything else?
And nothing else to add to the pot. I think we already had so much of it already tonight.
It's been a
I
fun
think
night.
we hit on most of the subjects. If there's any questions or any concerns. I guess, Jay, you had a question on offset to a well on another the same property that we discussed earlier, but one of the other abutters. It came out, it was 106 feet.
Okay.
So it's or 103 or 106. But it's certified by the engineer on the as-built that it is greater than 100. One of the things I should explain to you on the as-built drawing that I gave you that shows the leaching facility and the offset to the well, there's what's called a limit of excavation, or that speckled area around the septic system. That's only an overdig. That is not part of, it's not under our practice, that is not part of the septic system.
So a dashed line that goes through that area is not
That
out
white
of
area,
compliance.
that dashed line and the dotted speckled material, That's not part of the septic system per se, proper. The edge of the septic system is the white, the striped material that's inside that. That's where some of the confusion might come about.
That's
Somebody
where you
measures
measure
it
from.
off, and it measures to the limit of excavation instead of the actual leaching facility proper.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Just like the measurement on the wells. The wells are actually to the center of the well and not the edge of the well or the well casing. So,
Okay. Anything else?
Just want to mention that, we talked about Earth Day and other, methods of community, activities. Dudley Little League will be holding their annual cleanup day, March 26th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And all the help of anyone in the town would be appreciated if you want to come down and.
I'll be at the rabies clinic.
Yes, I will be at cleanup day at the Little League.
and that, where is it located?
At Crawford Field, next to Dudley
School
Elementary.
Street.
On School Street.
It's on School Street, right over in...
Yes.
Excellent.
Bring your own rake.
Okay. Anything else?
Good.
I just want to thank everybody. Thank you for everything that you're doing. So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, the motion.
I have a motion to adjourn in a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Can I have my glasses? And we are at 9:33.
Thank you for holding out for the entire meeting.
Thank you.